It's Dr. Cassie Smith, and welcome to Back to the Basics, a simple approach to health in the modern world. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today and hopefully learn ways that could help you improve your health. The modern world has left little time to focus on health and wellness. I hope to give you some quick and simple ways to be well and live your best life. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Back to the Basics. I'm thrilled that you joined me this week to continue to learn more and improve your health. I'm excited about our guest today. I was actually on his podcast a couple months ago, and he graciously agreed to come be on my podcast. But I have Chase Jackson. He's the CEO and head coach of Chase Jackson Elite Performance. Over the past 15 years, he's helped over 50,000 athletes, entrepreneurs, CEOs perform at the highest level. Chase and his team of world-class doctors and coaches apply a simple 3-step formula to help their clients perform at the highest level. So I'm interested in asking him about this formula, so you'll definitely want to make sure you listen to this whole podcast. His company also gives back 8% of profits to help underserved athletes from around the world get the resources they need. Chase also hosts the Chasing Greatness radio show, which brings on the world's best coaches, doctors, and performance scientists to help listeners perform at the highest level. So that's what I got to be a part of. I was super excited. He has a very active Instagram page, and we're gonna link that along with his Chasing Greatness radio show with our show notes. So help me in welcoming Chase Jackson.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
You were an amazing guest.
Thank you. So right before we started, you guys, we were just talking about Chase lives in Miami and he's thinking about moving. Is that right?
Oh, we've made the decision. No thinking about here. We're moving.
So he's moving to Arizona.
We're moving from heat to the heat.
Yeah. Yes, we were just comparing heats. Miami, Oklahoma, Arizona. It's all very, very hot for sure. But I'm excited to pick your brain today. So Chase does a lot with, like I said, high performing athletes, and he kind of talks about how to get people to perform at their highest levels. And so I have lots of questions for you. I'm sure listeners have lots of questions for you. So let's just start with this. So what does it mean to perform at your highest level? Like what does that mean to you? Like who are you looking to help? How are you looking to help them? How do they know they need help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. The way that we kind of look at it is like two parallel lines going up. So the top line is when we have everything dialed in with our training and our movement and our sleep and with whatever our specific craft is in terms of the skills that go along with that, how well can we perform at that level when we're at our best? And then the other parallel line, this is kind of a dichotomy that we teach, that kind of what leads to elite performance, is how well can we perform when shit goes sideways, when we're not on a good night of sleep, when we're not eating well, when life happens. And so we define kind of elite performance as not only, when you're at your absolute best, how well do you show up, but how well can you show up with adversity, when things go wrong, if that makes sense.
That does. I've never actually thought about that. So that makes a lot of sense. So I guess, we were kind of talking about this too. I'm shocked at the number of people who don't even realize that they don't feel well or that they're not performing at their highest levels. So when people come to you, I guess, like, how do they come to you or how do they find you or, what do they say? What are you helping them do?
I agree with you 100% on that. And I think like the biggest metric that we have found that is most profound in terms of, I thought I was at a 7 out of 10, but I'm really at like a 2 or 3, is like heart rate variability. When people have a lower HRV, okay, we're doing good. But once we get that number up, then they're like, whoa, I thought I was at a 7, but I was really at like a 4. And then the other half of your question in terms of who usually reaches out to us, it's a lot of people in the business community. And then we still work with a lot of athletes. So my background is I spent about 13, 14 years mostly serving athletes, and it's only been in the last 2 or 3 that we've transitioned to high performers in the general population. So a lot of what we teach is principles that we use with athletes, and we brought it over to general pop, and it's worked very well.
Okay, so I have some questions. So heart rate variability, you mentioned that. So explain to people who don't understand what that means. Like, what are you talking about?
It's basically a signal of how well our nervous system is functioning, how many heartbeats that is happening per second, and it's a number that goes between 1 and 100. And we all have kind of baseline levels of what that number could be. So while your number may be, I don't know, between 50, 55, and another person's maybe between 70 and 75, it doesn't necessarily mean that yours is, that you're in dramatically worse health. But what we look to do is we look to get that number up. Because once it reaches 0, then your time on this planet has expired. Okay. And that's one of the distinct things that we measure here.
So you want the heart rate variability to be high?
We want the heart rate variability to be high. That is correct.
And that's even at rest?
Yes.
Okay. And so what do you do to help people increase their heart rate variability?
So that's a great question, because a common misperception when people, I don't know how much your community knows about HRV, but when a lot of people that do know a little bit about HRV, they think it's all about, go ahead.
Sorry, I know a little bit, but I'm not sure how much my listeners, we've never talked about it on my podcast. So.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to bring this to the table in terms of a potential tool your listeners can use to help improve their lives and their health. Is a common misperception with HRV is how hard I worked out the day before. It's like that's the biggest indicator of how my HRV is. It's because I had this crazy workout yesterday, and that plays a factor. But a much bigger factor that determines how high or low our HRV is how much stress we have in our lives, just overall. So how we're dealing with stress that's coming to us, and then also, the stress on the body that potentially the food that we're eating is causing. But overall, it's an indicator of how well our body is dealing with stress. And again, in terms of like longevity, we do all these things, we do all these biohacks and things like that to improve our longevity and our energy and things like that. But the science is pretty clear that how we deal with stress is the number one correlator in terms of how long we live. So it's a huge deal.
So how would somebody determine that? Like, would you have to wear a device, or how would you determine what that is?
Yeah, so the most common ways is to wear a device, things like an Oura ring or a Whoop strap. We've had Marco Altini on the Chasing Greatness radio show. He's considered like the world's number one thought leader on HRV. And he has a app that you can use where you just use it quickly in the morning. I can provide that to you after the show. You can put it in the show notes if that's something that would be of interest, where you don't have to have a wearable. But we give all of our clients a wearable to use. We give them an Oura ring. But Oura ring, Whoop strap are two of the more common.
Okay. And so it's just checking the difference in your heart rate throughout the day based on how, like when you're stressed, when you're sleeping, when you're setting, that type of thing.
Correct. And we want, it's the amount of heartbeats per minute. So we want that number to be larger. We want it to be not like boom, boom, boom. We want it to be boom, 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 boom. We want to have it fluctuating.
Okay. So what would be a typical number you would want to see? Is it based on your age or not really? Doesn't matter how old you are.
Age does play a factor. And again, it's hard to say because it varies with people. So, ideally we want a higher number, but some people just are more, they're just overall they're genetically disposed to have a higher HRV than other people. So what our entire goal here is to just whatever number that we see coming in is to over time get that number up.
Okay. And so when you say higher, I know you said it was like 0 to 100. Are you talking like you want to see in the 50s, 60s? What would be a good number to see?
Yes, or higher. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I have an Aura ring, and
Okay.
now you have me super intrigued.
Okay.
So I just looked at my HRV, and it's not good.
Okay. What is it?
Well, so yesterday it was 24,
Okay.
but today it was 49.
Okay. That's a
And
huge
it
deal.
says that my average is 49.
Okay. And so another cool thing that we've noticed over the years is it's not necessarily what happened the day before that shows the biggest indicator of how your HRV is. It's what happened 2 days before. So I would be curious to know what you did on Saturday that potentially led to a HRV of 24 yesterday, which was Monday.
Nope, today's Monday.
Today's Monday. Today is Monday. Okay. So I'd be curious what you did on Friday.
Okay.
What's going on here?
Yeah. So that is interesting. So, we were talking right before this started. So we're getting ready to move buildings, and yeah, I've been pretty stressed, and my sleep has been. I usually sleep very well. I pride myself on doing everything that I preach, and so I'm a huge proponent of sleep. I exercise and I eat well. My sleep has not been great the last week, and I've been really stressed. So I don't know if that in itself just does it. I have been exercising. I do eat well. I meditate. I do my red light, but I have noticed the last week that I have not slept as well, and I've been stressed.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word stressed now, and you mentioned it before we got on. And there was great research done by Kelly McGonigal at Stanford University, where when we tell ourselves that we're stressed, our body releases cortisol. But if we just make the shift in our mind and change that to I'm excited about this challenge, I'm excited about this move, then the body actually releases DHEA. So it's very profound research in what she found there, and just in terms of how powerful mindset impacts our hormones and our physiology. So we can start by changing our language.
Okay, I like that. That's awesome. I would much rather make DHEA than I would cortisol.
Yes.
That sounds like a great idea. Okay, so that I have never really dove into HRV, so that's awesome. So that's something that you guys track, and so you just teach people over time how to make that better by changing their language. I'm excited instead of I'm stressed. Okay.
Nutrition plays a factor.
Okay.
Sleep plays a huge factor. So in step one of our 3-step formula is measurement. The fastest, I was amazed in just how extraordinary you are in terms of how many different measurements you have for your patients. But so fastest way to improve anything is to measure it, whether that's for the body, whether that's for your business. So we do a high performance blood panel, which we have our doctors go over with them, and then we provide a wearable. And then with that, we're looking at light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, and HRV. And there's a correlating factor in terms of how much our REM sleep and our deep sleep goes up, and then our HRV usually goes up with that. So by improving sleep, you're usually improving heart rate variability.
Okay. So you said so you do blood, you do a wearable, you look at sleep, you look at nutrition. You didn't say anything about exercise. Most people out there are probably thinking, well, this is very exercise dependent, but
yes.
Nutrition and sleep are more.
Yeah. So those are we do measure with exercise. We look at grip strength, and we look at relative strength, how strong you are relative to body weight. But when I talk about measurements, we're looking in terms of actually what's going on inside the body. But we do look at grip strength and relative strength with exercise. Exercise is that's our bread and butter. So that's a huge part of what we do. Yes.
Okay. So you start with measurement.
Mhm.
And then so just briefly, whenever we're talking about sleep, you tell me your thoughts. Are you in the 7 to 9 hour category? Are you saying it doesn't matter how long they sleep as long as they get good REM sleep? What is your thoughts on sleep?
Well, what you'll find with me is the best answer is it depends. I know it doesn't hit very hard for social media, but it depends. So if you are getting less sleep, then I would say yes. I hope that you are getting more REM sleep. So ideally, we want you to get up to, this is a high number that people we wish a higher number, we could get a higher number of our clients to get this, but ideally you're getting an hour 50 of REM and an hour 50 of deep sleep a night. And that's really hard to get on, 5.5, 6 hours. So yes, we like the 7 to 9, but on the other side of that coin, we have this other line here where, that's not going to happen all the time. So how well are you able to perform when you're only on 4 or 5, 6 hours? But in terms of longevity, in terms of heart rate variability, ideally 7 to 9 is a great place to be, because especially for REM sleep, which happens at the end of your sleep cycle. So the more you're kind of sleeping in, the more REM sleep you're going to be getting for the most part.
Okay. So this makes sense to me. So I got a little upset when I first started wearing my Aura ring, because there would be days where, it tells you like your readiness score. And it will tell you, some days it will be like, oh, you need to or you need to relax, you need to rest. I was really confused because I would get really good sleep the night before, but it would be like, warning, you need to rest. And I was like, what is this thing talking about? But then when I go back and look, because now you got my brain, like those are the next days after my HRV score is like in the 20s. So it's like telling you that, hey, you need to take a chill pill.
Yeah. And
But
whatever
it
that
doesn't,
means,
it's
whatever
not
that
even
means to
correlated
you.
directly to your sleep, which is crazy.
Yeah, the sleep is just a factor.
Yeah.
But I would still encourage you to dominate those days where it's telling you to, if you have a low readiness score.
Okay, so if your readiness score is good, even though it's telling you to just take a break, you're saying dominate, go exercise, do whatever I want.
I wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't. No. Well, no, I wouldn't say necessarily go exercise. We have a great story. I got a friend named Clive Brewer, who he's a sports scientist. He's going to be one of my buddies that I want to be meeting with in Phoenix. But he was a sports scientist for professional tennis players in Wimbledon for a long time, Toronto Blue Jays in baseball, and I think it was Columbus Crew in Major League Soccer. And when he got to the Blue Jays, one of the first things he did was he provided all the players an Oura ring, right? Like, okay, we want you to get you a great night of sleep, HRV. And he tells this great story. They had one of the top pitchers in baseball, and he was scheduled to pitch that night. And then he was like, hey, Clive, my readiness score is shit, and I got I had 4 hours of sleep last night. You think I should pitch? I totally laughing about it, and he went out there and dominated, and had a great performance. Where we don't want to be beholden to the number, So no, I would, unless you're specifically training for something where physical training is your number one top priority, then I would say, yeah, have a lesser training day. I would say, yeah, move more, get your steps, but don't, do some crazy training session. But at the same time, I wouldn't be like, okay, because of this, now I'm not going to be able to perform at a high level at work, or I'm not going to be able to be energized for my family or things like that. So it's a dichotomy. It's finding that balance.
Okay. Yeah, or maybe it's like, hey, I need to have better conversations with myself. Like I'm excited instead of I'm stressed. Or, maybe you do yoga that day instead of hit exercises or something like that.
I love that. I think those are two fantastic protocols. Yeah.
Okay. Or we're walking, on a treadmill. One of the things I love to do for listeners, like if you ever, some mornings, you wake up and you're just like, I'm not feeling lifting really heavy stuff in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have those days. I don't know why. This morning was one of those days. Maybe now I know why. but I was just like, I'm not feeling throwing around really heavy stuff this morning. And so I got on my treadmill, like a 5% incline, and I just took a walk and I listened to one of my I listened to a book that I'm reading right now. And I just walked for like 30 minutes, but it's still hard to walk on an incline, especially if you're not, holding on to anything. You're still using your abs. I mean, you're still working your core, you're still working your backside, your legs. And so that's what I did this morning, so you could do something like that. And then I did some stretching in front of my red light and then I was fine. So maybe doing something like that, whenever you have those scores, as opposed to, and then, working on how you're talking to yourself. So I'm excited.
You're excited
about the building. I'm excited about all the changing. I'm excited about it all.
Life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you.
That's right. That's right.
What's the book that you're listening to?
So, this is embarrassing. So last week, whenever I was telling myself how stressed I was having, a conversation with one of my girlfriends who's also a provider, and she's been great. And she said, Cassie, you have to stop sometimes. You can't just work all the time. You have to sometimes just like give in and do something fun. Like, when is the last time you read a book for fun? And I was like, honestly, probably in 2019. And she was like, well, you're going to read this book and we're going to go watch the movie when it comes out in 2 weeks. And so she sent it to me. And so it's called It Ends With Us, or It Begins With Us. It Ends With Us, I think is what it's called. So it's just this fiction book that's just complete garbage love story, but it's really good. Like, I'm almost to the end of it. And there's a girl in it named Cassie. So it's amazing.
And then do you agree with her statement?
I do, because I was all wound up at the end of last week. And then on Saturday this week, actually on Saturday, I didn't work at all. It was the first day I hadn't worked in probably 7 months, to be honest with you. I didn't work at all. I went to the spa and I just like detoxed and stretched and worked out, did like a 4-hour session of just like nothing but listening to my book and just like being mindful. And I slept a lot better on Saturday, and I slept pretty good last night. So I agree.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's garbage. I never read garbage like that, but I have a little book club going along with some of my girlfriends, and we're going to go watch that movie. And so it's good.
Yeah. And it can be a way to connect, which is just as much a powerful form of recovery.
Correct. Okay. So measurement is one of the things. So what else do you guys do with this 3 simple step? Like, cause I like this. So you're trying to get people to perform best even on their bad days, which is what I need, right? Because when you're a doctor, it doesn't matter if you have bad days, like if I wake up and have a bad day, I still have 20 people I have to go see, and you can't let that, I can't let what's going on with me bleed into that, because you're helping 20 other people. So I'm interested. Keep going.
Yeah. And just real quick. Yeah. The recovery part is part of our step 2, but just real quick, like that is so much of what life is. And it is for not only, people out in the real world, but, for elite athletes who are playing 5 games in 7 nights. Or we had Navy SEAL leader Rich Davini on the show a couple weeks ago, just extraordinary human being, extraordinary leader. He was a leader in the SEALs for 20 years. And like when people think about like special operators, they think of like peak performers. And he's like, that's not what we are at all. Like the whole point of their training was to get all of their trainees down to absolute zero, and then to see how well they could perform, close to zero. Like he was laughing about, there was controversy in the Navy SEALs in training a couple years ago about guys taking steroids during training. And it's like, that has no benefit to you whatsoever, because all the instructors there are just going to make you do as many push-ups as possible, no matter what. And then they're going to tell you to run in the ocean and get, wet and sandy. So, oh, wow, you can do 50 or you can do 100 instead of 50. All you're doing is just doing extra push-ups before you have to go do the same thing that everyone else does. So I just think it's just really relevant, where I don't think it's talked about enough, where yes, we want to do all these things where we're spiraling up in terms of our health and how we feel and our energy, but we also really want to be able to find ways to take control of our mind and our physiology in the moment to, perform no matter what's going on. So step 2 for us is, we're a big believer in what we call the fundamentals. So we have a specific set of fundamentals. You do as a doctor, I do as a coach. everyone does with their specific craft. And then as human beings, we all have a set of physiological fundamentals. And we consider that training, movement, nutrition, sleep, mindset, breath, and recovery. And just like Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan practicing the simplest bounce passes till the last day of his career, just like Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes practicing the simplest three-step drop every practice leading up to game week. We are all over our clients in terms of optimizing these, what we call fundamentals, because once you get these out in, then on the positive side, you're setting yourself up to be able to really take massive action and achieve everything that you want in your life. And then going back to that dichotomy, you're setting yourself up to be most prepared physiologically to handle stress, to handle adversity, to handle stuff that goes wrong. So step 2 for us is helping our clients optimize and calibrate their, what we call the fundamentals.
Okay. I like that. So what I like about that is some of these are the same steps that I talk about in my like 10 steps to wellness. So I like the nutrition, I like the sleep, I like the exercise. I talk about mindfulness somewhat with people, but the breath and the recovery, I don't. And so when you're just sitting there and talking about that, like it's so true that at some point you have to take a breath and you have to recover and you have to, like allow yourself that break, I guess you would say. So those are good points. I like that.
Yeah.
And I do think that teaching yourself to do that is the hardest part, especially when, if you are busy or you're somebody who's just done for so long, when you get to the point where you have a day like I had on Saturday where you just don't do. I will tell you that for the first hour that I was doing that, I found myself wanting to like look at my phone and see like, do I have an email I need to respond to? Like, you know what I mean? It's really hard to like turn all that off. So that's good. And I don't do breath work like I should. I did download an app to help me with that just recently. I downloaded Headspace.
Okay.
Because I've heard that I need to breathe more, and I'm terrible at meditating. I have a girl that works for me now. Her name is Sarah, and she's so sweet. She meditates all the time, and she's always like, "Dr. Cassie, we gotta get you meditating." And I'm like, Sarah, I don't know how. Like, I just don't. When I sit down and I close my eyes, I think of a million things I need to do. And she's like, "That no, you can't do that." And
yes,
so
she's been
trying to talk.
Yes, you can.
She's been trying to talk me through like how you meditate. So I
there's
got this app.
There's I don't know if he might have passed away, but there was a researcher at Harvard named Herbert Benson.
Okay.
And he wrote these great books called The Relaxation Response and The Relaxation Revolution. And it was all about the power of meditation and mindfulness. And you would be astounded in terms of how much it impacts in terms of like what genes turn on and what genes turn off. But he was dealing with this same issue with like people like, well, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know. It's not working. And then his perspective on it was, look at it like brushing your teeth. Like after you're done brushing your teeth, you're like, okay, did I brush my teeth correctly today? Did I really do this right? Or could I have done it a little better? Just show up and do it. And I think that might be of benefit to you to kind of let go of judgment on that.
Yeah, I'm going to get both of those books, The Relaxation Response and The Relaxation Revolution. I really do want to learn how to do that. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. And Sarah is always so calm. And so, I mean, I stay very calm. You can ask people, especially if you knew me 5 years ago. I can stay very level-headed, very calm in almost any situation. Now, what's going on in my head might not be what I'm portraying on the outside, but I'm really good at that, right? Because I've done it for 7 years and you never know what you're going to get when you deal with women's hormones all day long. And so I'm really good at like remaining calm in heated situations and crying situations. And I can stay very calm, and I'm always like figuring out solutions to the problem. But I will tell you that when I leave and go home, I'm just always like problem solving. There's always stuff going through my head. My to-do list is never done. So it's very hard for me to set and just think about nothing, like my brain just starts thinking about things, you know? And so I
Mhm.
really do want to learn how to do that. And so I've been telling Sarah, like, I want to learn. So I did get an app this weekend, but it is really hard.
Yeah,
It's
we
hard.
had to do it with young athletes so we think about how challenging that potentially could have been. And what we have found was most effective was using a candle. So just putting a candle in front of you and then just looking at the candle. And then once you notice that you stopped thinking about the candle, just bring it back to thinking about the candle. And then a lot of people think like, oh, I fucked up. I made this, I did this, I messed up because I stopped thinking about the candle, or I stopped thinking about, I started thinking about other stuff. The win is in bringing it back to what you were thinking, bring it back to your anchor point, whether that's the candle or your breath or whatever your specific anchor point is. And then, another thing I might recommend is are you familiar with Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony Robbins he's not a fan of the meditating. He does something called priming, which might be something that potentially you may resonate with more. But it involves breath work, it involves gratitude, but you're like specifically doing something that's proactive rather than just what could be viewed as kind of passive as meditating.
Okay. See, and I'm good at that. Like, I'm good at gratitude. I do that every day, at least
Mm.
once a day, if not twice a day. So when I first wake up in the morning, I used to be a terrible morning person. I will actually say that Mel Robbins probably like changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
She does. I don't know if you've ever heard of like her 5 4 3 2 1,
Yeah,
that
that's
book.
legit. That's amazing.
But like in 2017, 2018, whenever my alarm went off, I mean, I was just like angry at the world. I hated getting up. I didn't want to, like, I was just mad about everything. And then I read that book and I was like, okay, 5 4 3 2 1, I'm going to get up. And I started practicing gratitude. And so every morning when my alarm goes off, I immediately think of like, what are 3 things I'm grateful for? And the first one every morning is that I have the ability to stand up and, be alive. And so it just changes your whole mindset, right? And then it's like, okay, I actually have the ability to go work out. This is awesome. Like, how many people can't do this, you know? And so I'm good at practicing gratitude. I would say I've gotten good at that. And then when I go to bed at night, I every single night try to, even my worst days, like I'm going to pick something that went well and I'm going to be grateful for it, you know? So I'm good at that. And I'm good at
So
like
good.
sometimes laying and like, relaxing my toes and relaxing my feet and relaxing my legs and relaxing my stomach and like that sort of thing. But I'm really bad at breathing. It makes me all anxious when I try to do that like box breathing stuff. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at that, like breath work. And I'm not good at just like being calm, but I am trying. Like, I know that. And I know that's probably the only part of my health that I'm really, really bad at because I'm good at stretching. And so I'm going to make a point to make it better for sure.
Yeah. I'd look in the Tony Robbins priming. I think that
Okay.
might really resonate with you. And then the three
Okay.
things that we do to optimize mindset, which I think kind of falls into what you're talking about, is one, meditation or something like that. The reason I've been meditating for 15 plus years. The reason I love doing it is view it as like training for my mind for the rest of the day. So when stuff happens, I get off, like, my mind has been primed to be able to stay on track, and I'm able to stay. I mean, I take leadership very seriously, so it keeps me centered to be able to make clear decisions and not get emotional on stuff. So that's why I do it. A second thing is whenever we get off track, whenever I get off track, whenever one of our clients get off track mentally, whether that's something that happens with a client or another human being on the road or just whatever, how quickly can we get back in the state that we were before that happened? So it sounds like you do a great job of that, and when you say that you're stay calm in terms of what's going on around you, just to be able to take that in, and then how quickly are we able to, once we feel that stress response, how quickly can we get ourselves back to where we were? And then the third one, which goes back to one of our other fundamentals, which is focus, is we call it what's important now, is like how throughout the day, how quickly can I train my mind to focus specifically on the task at hand, which I think is a superpower in the modern world with so much stimuli that's going around. But those three things, I think, if people really dial those in, it can have an absolute transformative impact in terms of taking control of your mind and using it as a tool to, benefit you.
So when you say you meditate every morning, like what are you thinking about? Are you literally just sitting there thinking about nothing? Or are you thinking about these are the things I need to do today and you're just quiet and breathing? Like what do you mean?
Yeah. So it definitely it changes for me over the years. And I guess I should say it changes like seasonally in terms of how I do it. But I've been doing the priming recently. I found that it's been just something that's really been resonating with me. Tony Robbins, like 15 minutes of breathing. I should say it's 3 minutes of breathing, and then it's staying still, and then 3 more minutes of intense, not 3 minutes, 30 seconds of intense breathing, and then it's staying still for 30 seconds, and then 30 seconds of intense breathing. Repeat that for 3 minutes, and then it is think about 3 moments in your life that just brought you absolute joy and happiness, and like imagine those moments happening right now. And then go through the breathing sequence again. Think of 3 things that you're grateful for, and then go through the breathing sequence again, and then 3 goals that you have in your life, and just feel them like if they've already happened. So that's what I've been doing recently. That's actually been pretty recent. That's been just like in the last month. But up before that, what I've been doing this year is my anchor point's been my breath. So I'll have like an inhale sequence and I'll have an exhale sequence, and just focusing on the inhale and focusing on the exhale. When I start thinking about something else, which I will invariably do, then just bring it back to the breath, and another rep has been won.
Okay. So that's what you call meditation. So you're not sitting there thinking about your to-do list or anything like that, or what's important for the day. It's just you're getting all that positive energy and positive vibes and helping with dopamine.
And I think more importantly, have you ever heard of the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi? He's the guy who came up with the term flow. But he's just super smart dude. But he has this concept that our ability to put our attention where we want, when we want, for how long we want, determines the quality of our life. And like, that's what meditation is for me, more than like, it's just direct thinking about specifically what I want to think about. So like the issue is like a to-do list is like, I'm thinking about what I'm doing at 9 o'clock. Then I'm thinking about what I'm doing at 10 o'clock. So I'm thinking about all these different things compared to like focusing on a candle or focusing on my breath. Just to have one kind of single pointed focus, I think, is the big benefit of it, if that makes sense. I'm not a meditation, master, but just in terms of how we kind of communicate it and what works for myself and our clients.
Yeah, and where you mentioned what's important now and the task at hand right now, being able to just focus on that is so hard. You're right, because there's just so many things in the world that distract you. And so, and especially if you own a business, I'm sure you know this. I have spent the last 2 months, and I'm going to spend the next 6 months really trying to figure out how I can just do my job all day long and nobody's bothering me, right? Like I'm trying to put my who's and my people in place where like, if there's a problem, you go to somebody else, not me. Like you don't come to me in the middle of me taking care of my patients in clinic to make me stop what I'm doing to fix problems, because then that is just a complete mind shift, right? And it's hard, and your brain's just like I joke that if I could just go to work and just be a doctor, I mean it would be amazing, right?
Yeah, in terms of elite performance, I think that should be the goal. Another thing that Csikszentmihalyi, his research, he's a researcher, he concluded is that if I check my phone right now while talking to you, it would literally take my brain 15 minutes to get back into the state that I am in now with you just from checking that for 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. So if one of your team members disrupts you from an interaction that you're having with a patient about something that has nothing to do with the patient, it's going to take your brain literally 15 minutes to get back to where it was. And I'm guessing you're not meeting with your patients for very long. So like it's going to impact the performance of the entire interaction. And then you think about people who are checking stuff all day, you're not at elite performance. Like if you're checking your phone all day, the brain is just not wired for that. So you asked me the first question of the day was, how do you get to elite performance? Like tactical tool is really get your focus right and focus on what's important. So I think I would give you a playful push in terms of what it takes for you to get to elite performance. It would be to really accomplish that, because it is feasible. It's just, it requires a lot of skills. You got to be able to hire the right people. You got to train the right people. Then you got to be able to be disciplined to trust that they're going to do their what they're supposed to do. And if they're not able to do it, then you're going to be able to circle back and fix the issue. It's tough.
It is. And I would agree with you. And I would say that, one of my first guests on my podcast was talking about this. And so what I have done, it's probably been almost 2 months now, is when I go to work, I don't have my phone on me anymore. Like I used to have my phone in my pocket or wherever, and I would feel it vibrate all day long. And I have people, the amount of texts I get in a day is ridiculous. And so I just started leaving it in my drawer or leaving it with one of the girls that works with me, and I just told my husband, like, hey, if you need me, you know where I'm at. And I will tell you, if you don't even have your phone on your person, that in itself is huge. Like that helps me a lot. But then you're right. Like anytime somebody comes up to me or asks me something in the middle of a clinic, it's just like, you're right. It takes a minute to get back focused. And so I'm working on developing a great team. Like I have a great team, but my team has gotten a lot better about that. Like they hold things for me at the end, till the end of clinic. Like Josh is one of my clinic managers, has been great about that. Like at the end of the day, he'll be like, okay, I have all this. And then I just got an executive assistant. She's helping me with things, which is really nice. She goes through my email. Oh my God, you guys, I have never had anyone to help me with email in my life. I get like 150 plus emails a day, right? I don't have to read all my emails anymore. Like she puts them in this folder for me. So at the end of the day, it's just like, these are the only ones I need to address. I can't tell you the difference in just that. Like it is unbelievable. So I'm working on things like that. And I think in the next couple months we'll be there. But it's yes, if I could just go to work and focus on work and seeing patients at work, my excitement level would be a lot higher.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're killing it. That's awesome.
So, okay. So that's interesting. So now I really am though dedicated to the breath stuff and the meditation stuff and what you said to me, what you just said kind of resonated with me as far as like, you made the comment that if you can be right in where you want to be, like if you can put your attention where you want it to be and focus it there for as long as you want it to be, that's like, the ultimate, I guess, Dalai Lama goal, whatever. That to me is interesting, because for me, I try to do that. But to be honest with you, there's always something, right? It's like ding, 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 ding. Like there's a million things that need to be done. And so, but it does make more sense if I ever do like wake up early on a Saturday and come upstairs and there's nothing bothering me and I don't even have my phone and I'm like very focused on what I'm doing. I get it done much faster, and it just, that makes sense.
Yeah. And just if you want to improve your nutrition, what's the number one thing you do? Just get the food out of your house,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we used to challenge athletes on in terms of their workouts, was to not bring their phone, not have your music. Because when you're in the fourth quarter of a game and you're super fatigued, you're not going to have that extra dopamine. Can you do your workout and do it just as hard without that music? Just having these environment's so huge. So just removing your phone, I think it's just powerful. Yeah. I think it's awesome.
That is amazing. Okay. And then recovery. So what do you talk to people about recovery? Like, what do you mean by that? Is that like, don't work out, or is that work out less, or is that stretch? Like, what does recovery mean?
Sure. So again, it depends, right? It's based on what your specific goals are, but recovery is fine. number one is like finding time throughout the day. So we're working with a lot of like entrepreneurs, right? So being able to intensely focus on one thing and then being able to step away for 10, 15 minutes without inputting anything. So that's an example of recovery. A massage is an example of recovery. What you're doing with your friends in the fiction book and the book club, I think that's an example of recovery. Petting your dog, that's an example of recovery. And it's really just a matter of finding where you're able to step away. And then like the way I kind of communicate to see if it's working for people is like when you come back to your work or your sport or whatever it is, do you feel like you have more energy than when you left? Do you feel reinvigorated? Is I think a great way to measure whether or not this is actual recovery.
Okay, I like that. So I like that. We were talking about this yesterday. So Josh and I were talking about my schedule. So for the providers out there listening to this who work through lunch and never sat down to eat lunch or pee, I am a recovering provider like that of 7 years. So I never ate lunch for 7 years. And Josh and I were having this conversation yesterday, and he's like, we're changing your schedule. We're changing your template. You are going to take lunch for an hour, and you're going to, go away and come back. You might have to work longer. So I'm going to have to stay in clinic longer, allegedly, not really, because I hopefully just won't be running behind. But, so we're going to change my template so that I can have lunch. So today, the point of this was today, I got done at like 12 o'clock and I ate some chicken and I ate a sweet potato and I took a walk outside and I just listened to my book, the book that I love. I listened to 15 more minutes and I walked, and then I came back and then I had a meeting before I went back, and I felt like more energy. It was the weirdest thing. I was just like, oh wow, I feel like ready to go for the afternoon,
Yeah. And you seem like a very high performing individual. So like, it doesn't even have to be that. Like you can use that lunchtime maybe in a way where you're actively improving yourself physically, mentally, or spiritually in a way that's just not what you're doing with your practice, right? As another potential alternative where it doesn't have to feel like, okay, I'm just kind of killing an hour here.
Well, right. No, I think nutrition is important. And so I get frustrated that I don't sometimes eat lunch because then I have to eat a lot at night because I eat my protein no matter what every day. So I don't like to come home and eat 100 grams of protein because I haven't eaten anything all day. So I think that nutrition is important. But then I love walking. So my listeners know this. Like I am a huge proponent of walking. Like anyone can walk. You can get up and go for a walk for 10 minutes. I walk after every meal. Like it's a rule in our house. Me, my husband, my dog, we all go after dinner. Like it doesn't matter. So I'm a huge proponent of just outside sunlight. It was 120 degrees today, like with humidity here.
You got your sauna while walking.
Yeah, I took my 15-minute walk. I listened to my book and I could not have been happier. I got a whole nother chapter in. I'm almost done. And it was fabulous, And so little things like that makes sense for recovery. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean like you're not exercising or you're not. It's just like take a break because that makes sense. You get to a point when you're doing work. I don't care who you are. I don't care how superhuman you are. Probably 75 minutes max of doing something really hard and concentrated. You need to get up and take a break because you're going to start missing things, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of research in the study of like talent development in terms of like peak performance in music and sports. And what they found was it is like 75 to 90 minutes of like intense work. And then that needs to be followed with like, again, like 17 minute kind of oscillation break. And, a lot of people complain about lower back pain. And a lot of that comes just from sitting too much. Their hip flexors get weak and their posture is not very good. So, I'm standing right now, there's standing desks, there's treadmill desks. You don't have to do that, but you want to be getting up pretty frequently and, at least doing something. And so like walking and things like that, I love that. I'm a huge believer in, I do a lot of walking. I get a lot of steps every day.
Okay. And then what's the third one? So we talked about the first one. Okay. So we've talked about measurement and we've talked about fundamentals. So what's your third step?
Yeah. So fundamentals, focus, nutrition, training movement, sleep, recovery, breath. And then the third one is coaching. So really being receptive to being coached. And the premise for that is, what's a great coach? They push you. So they push you out of your comfort zone, right? You're outside of your comfort zone is where growth happens, and then they support you once you are outside of that comfort zone. So you're not feeling, completely abandoned out there. So our third measure is to, we're gonna give you coaching, and we're going to expect that you be really receptive to this coaching and understand. Our backgrounds in high level sports. So all the best athletes, they have great coaches. You look at the Olympics are happening right now, or they're about to come up. Like, no one is standing on the medal stand without having a line of coaches behind them. So our third step is to really get people just to get excited and really embrace coaching, because it's just invaluable in terms of what it can do in terms of accelerating growth.
Do you think people can have like one coach, or do you think they need multiple coaches? Do you provide like life coaching, or do you provide nutrition, exercise, or like, you know what I mean?
I think one's better than none, for sure.
Okay.
Uh, we provide a team here, but that's just our our model, right? But I think just for the average person listening here, many of them maybe have not had a trainer or a life coach or a peak performance coach, or someone like that, or even it could be they're like, because of the world that we live in now, there's so many different types of teachers and coaches. And I mean, I'm guessing a lot of what you do now in terms potentially is you're playing that role somewhat for your patients. But just to have at least someone in your corner that is pushing you to be better, to get out of your comfort zone. I would say, one's good. If you get more than one, then, well, I mean, if you have a great one, then I think, yeah, one's more than enough.
Yeah, I like that. I was just thinking about that. So I'm a huge proponent of therapy, and so everyone knows that as well. I have a therapist I love. I see her. I try to see her once a week. She does just that. She pushes me outside of my comfort zone a lot, and then she holds me very accountable and supports me in whatever decisions I make, good or bad. And so I think that's helped me grow as a person. But then just thinking about like I had a trainer once in 2020 when I first decided to get serious about like nutrition and my health. And then I didn't. And so I was just thinking about, I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you could have coaching, right? You could have a nutrition trainer, a nutrition coach, you could have an exercise coach. That could probably be the same person. I think therapy is great. You probably definitely need some sort of like business or life coach if you're running your own business. I think that's, the book club that we were talking about. I think that's one of the reasons I really like my friend Erin. She understands me. She has a lot of the same problems that I do. And then, yes, she definitely pushes me outside my comfort zone, and she challenges me to do things. And then she holds me accountable and supports me when I do them well and when I don't do them well. And so I think that is, yeah, I've never thought about it like that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. I love therapy. Yeah. Anybody got a problem with me? Shoot, I got the same problem, bro. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. So you guys provide all that in one big like program for people.
Yes. Yeah. We have sports psychologists on staff. We got doctors. We got me. I'm kind of filling the gaps, performance coach, strength and conditioning specialist. Yeah, so we have a whole team here, and we use the holistic approach. Again, it's the same approach used by elite athletes, and we bring it to high performers and the general population. And we're helping a lot of people, so we love what we do.
That is awesome. I really, really like that. And I enjoy watching your social media content too. I love that is it your wife, your fiance that
That's
you're,
it. Yeah, yeah.
you guys are always working out together and
Yeah.
doing stuff together and pushing each other, which I think is really cool. And I think your kids are on there too sometimes, which is
Hmm.
neat, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I love all that content. So, and then you're moving, tell everyone why you're moving to Arizona. You told me this. I thought this was intriguing.
Yeah. So it is, I think it's important because I'm a big believer in people going after their dreams. So I have two boys, 15 and 12, who are both very interested in basketball. And there is a high level program outside Phoenix that I know the coach over there who's done an extraordinary job in terms of development. So what we're doing is we're moving out there to really support them in terms of um, pursuing their dream. And for me, like people, they'll kind of question this. So like, well, what are the chances of your kids making the NBA and things like that? And like, it's not about that for me. It's about they have a dream. So kind of this is what it takes to achieve the dream. And then we're really using it as a vehicle to teach life skills. So they want to make this their number one thing. So, we're going through the fundamentals that we talked about earlier every day. We're teaching them about how to handle adversity and stress. And, I'm a huge believer. I got all these books behind me. So I'm a huge believer in academics and learning and building the mind. But yeah, we're moving across the country to help them support their dream.
That's awesome. That's so great. And so I was just, so when people do join your program, you said you have doctors, you have coaches. And so the doctors, I'm assuming, are the ones that do all the blood work for you and kind of just make sure that they're, well enough to do the program. Is that?
Yeah, well, I would say our blood panel is a little bit more in depth than that. A little bit more in depth than what the standard, um, blood panel that you would get from like Wellness FX or things like that. I don't know if I want to go toe to toe with what you're offering in terms of how in depth you're going, but we call it a performance panel that gets a pretty good idea. Our goal, of course, is to get those levels dialed in. I'm a huge believer in terms of making sure that we have the right amount of minerals and removing mineral deficiencies and things like that. So yeah, we have again, I want to be very careful of what I say here because who I'm talking to, but we got a somewhat in-depth blood panel that are they take that when they get in. We give them an Aura ring, start tracking their sleep, start tracking their heart rate variability, and then it comes down to what massive goal do you want to attain? Okay, let's go after that. Oh, while we're doing that, let's make sure that we get these fundamentals dialed in. So every week we're working to calibrate training, movement, nutrition, sleep, recovery, mindset, and focus. And that's going to set us up to maximize the chances that we hit that goal. And then it's also going to set us up at the same time, that dichotomy of when things go sideways, to be in the best state to be able to conquer that stress and say we're excited to whatever challenge the world is bringing us.
I like that. So you're helping people deal with adversity and just make sure that they can deal with anything that the world throws at you, because it does throw some crazy things at you. And I'm sure your blood panel is phenomenal. We'd love to look at it and give you any tips if you need. I have a great micronutrient panel that I use too that I'm willing to share with you. It
I
has
would love that.
190 different micronutrients, and it also looks at every single amino acid, so all 20 of them, because there's a lot of people that are deficient in some amino acids that are very essential.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know that if you're trying to build muscle. And it's crazy. Like I saw a lady today who was like, I eat fish, I eat all the things. And I'm like, well, we got to start supplementing this one because you can't build muscle missing these two essential amino acids,
And is she not getting it from the fish, or you feel like her body's not receptive to it?
That's a great question. I think she's got some gut issues that we need to look at. I think she's getting it. She's not absorbing it. So that's our second step in wellness. Our first step is cell membranes, making sure your cell membranes are well enough to accept everything that needs to come into them. But the second one is your gut health. Mm-hmm. And so I think she's got some stuff going on in her gut. Third is micronutrients. But it doesn't matter how many micronutrients you give someone or you eat if you can't absorb it because your gut's inflamed or your cell membranes are locked up because they're stiff and it can't get into the cell to actually work. None of that matters.
Yeah.
So that's, what we were talking about. So yeah, I would be,
That
if
is so
you
awesome.
ever want me to look at your
Yeah,
panel and give you any suggestions,
I would love
or,
that.
like I was telling you, I'm licensed in Arizona now.
Yeah.
So Modern Endocrine has a license in Arizona,
And how did that come
Oklahoma,
about?
Texas, hold on, Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Nevada, Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, and Illinois. So we're licensed in 8 states. And that came because I had so many people reaching out to me on social media that were like, I want to see you, but I can't come to Oklahoma. And, I was like, okay, well, there's a ton of people that actually, are really sick and want to get well. And so I told my husband, I was like, I mean, how difficult can it be to get a license in 50 states, right? Haha. And it's really hard. I was
Yeah.
kidding. And I was like, we're moving this building and we're doing a million things. Why not apply for 50 state licenses too? So we're doing it in sections because it's a lot of work. But my ultimate goal is for Modern Endocrine to be licensed in all 50 states so that the people who really, want to utilize our services can, because like I told you, I'm building this 10-step approach to wellness, and I'm going to write a book about it.
Yeah.
So I've got that started. And so I want to help providers and I want to help patients be able to figure out this, these steps to wellness. And really, I want to focus on, this crazy modern world. What can you do to start at the bottom and make everything better? And, I know that I can't take care of everyone in this country. I can't take care of even everyone in Oklahoma. And so I'm really dedicated to trying to help providers learn this. And so I'm also, thinking about letting providers partner with us so that they can help us take care of people in other states, which is why I'm also writing the book, because if you're going to do it, I want it to be done correctly. And so, I was like, how are you going to train these people? Oh, I have all these patients and providers that want to learn anyways. I might as well just put it all down and write a book. Right. And so, and I have 2 brand new providers right now I'm training. And so they've been really helpful in like, hey, this makes sense. This doesn't, so they're kind of helping me. And so it's a lot, but I'm super excited about it. I'm very excited.
There, see? You're killing it.
Excited.
I love it.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So I have 3 questions we have to end with. I loved this. This was very eye-opening for me too. I tell people this all the time. Like, I learn so much on my podcast too, which is why I love this.
Yeah, that's why I hold mine, really. It's like, yeah. I mean, I do it for the fans, but no, I mean, that's
I mean, I do it out of the sheer wanting to like help people learn about their health, like honestly, but I do learn so much and I get so much of it out of it myself. So I have all these little notes here to myself from you. And so, you know what? I want you to hold me accountable to this too. I am going to learn how to relax and breathe and be better. And I will do the candle light. I'll do it. I'm going to work on it. So
yeah, think like it's not a passive thing. So just go at it as hard as you do with what the empire that you're building, you know?
I'll just candles. I'm going to be buying some candles and I'm going to set them in front of my red light and I am going to stare at the candle and nothing but the candle. If it kills me, I'll start with 60 seconds. Right. And then we'll go from there.
Hey, if we can get a 23-year-old who's walking into the gym with a backwards hat, just got done eating hot chips and looking at social media all day to look at a candle for 10 minutes. I know damn well you can.
I think I can do it. Okay. So 3 questions. What is the one food that is the most beneficial and why?
One food that is most beneficial. Oh, I'm not a big favorite person. I want to say steak. And I got some kimchi from this farmer's market recently. And it's the best kimchi that I've absolutely ever tasted. So I've had a lot of steak and kimchi lately, and it's been absolutely extraordinary.
Okay. Why is steak so good for people so that they understand?
It's nutrient dense. Make sure that it comes from a healthy animal. Healthier the animal, the healthier the steak is for you. And it's got so much good stuff in it in terms of different vitamins. And it's also got creatine, carnosine. I just think there's a ton of really good stuff in steak. Again, I want to preface that, it depends really. It's not going to work for everybody. I'm just not that guy. But for me, steak works really well.
Okay. What is one easy health tip that anyone can do that's completely free?
Get up every 20 minutes and do some kind of movement.
Yep. I like that. I also like, mine used to be walking,
Hmm.
but now I think it might be breathing or meditating. Like
Hmm.
you can really meditate anywhere, right? Like so what I'm thinking when you said that, in 100% honesty, I hate airplanes.
Hmm.
I'm that person that when the airplane takes off and it lands, I'm like over there having a full on panic attack, which is hilarious because I have to fly all the time.
Hmm.
But I'm just thinking like, I want to learn how to do this candle thing and be really like, figure it out. So the next time I'm on an airplane, I can just meditate on the airplane when it takes off, right? Like just go to my happy place. And then, yeah. So anyways, I'm
Yes,
making
you can.
meditate.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. Okay, what is one thing you wish you would have known about your health 10 years ago?
Ooh, great question. 10 years ago. Okay.
I'm wishing I would have known about this HRV variability.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like 40. I mean, 49 is not. I mean, it's hard to tell, but
Yeah, I have a lot of days in the last month that have been in the 20s. I have 21, 22. Like I'm going to pay attention to that now.
if you're, you're under 10, you're getting close to being on your deathbed. So,
Well, now you're not making me feel any better.
that's something to get excited about. You got room to improve. But, okay. So I would say just in the world that we live in now, with what I know, the fastest way to improve anything is to measure it. So I would have started tracking stuff 10 years ago. It's so easy. It's so easy to get a wearable. It's so easy to track your sleep. It's so easy to get MyFitnessPal for your nutrition. It's so easy to, work with people like yourself in terms of getting a blood panel and things like that. So 10 years ago, I would have been quantifying much more.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. As always, love having the conversation. I've learned a lot. To our listeners, if you liked this, if you thought it was helpful, please share it. Please give us a review, follow us, or like us on wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Apple and we're on YouTube. And keep in mind, if you are in Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Nevada, Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, or Illinois, we do online consultations now. We do telehealth, modern endocrine. And then also keep in mind as well that we are doing a retreat. So we're doing a wellness retreat at the end of August. So I've been posting about it on my social media, but it's August 31st through September 4th. So if you want to go learn how to be well, I might even put in some breath work and meditation if I get there myself before now and then. But we're going to be doing that as well in Cabo. So make sure you're subscribing, liking, and following us, and we'll see you next week. The information presented, including any materials discussed, referenced, or linked within this podcast, are for general educational purposes only, not the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed from you listening to this podcast or utilizing any of the information provided. I am a doctor, but I am not talking to you as your doctor. The information provided is not intended to diagnose or treat health problems, or take the place of the professional medical care provided by your doctor. If you are experiencing any health problems, including problems you believe have been touched upon in any respect within this podcast, you should consult your doctor about the problems without delay. You may ask your doctor whether he or she believes the information I have provided would be helpful to you, but you should still consult your doctor immediately and follow his or her medical advice as your treating physician. I'm just here to provide you basic knowledge about the issues we discuss so you are more aware of them and can better discuss them with your doctor. That's why we call it Back to the Basics. Join me on the next episode as we continue our journey.